Hi, everybody. Let's check this out and see. Midnight oil again. We're burning the midnight oil every night. We've been doing this for almost 5 years every day, every day. And so, yeah, it looks like we're on. And we are at 1,000. Let's see. 1,753 days since Richard was violently taken forcibly from his barracks room and unalived, and his body was really disrespected. So, and how can we say this? There's a lot of people that are just like in unbelief that we can come on and say this. And we've been saying it for years, right? Because the evidence is there. We have the evidence and we have the witness testimony. I mean, when you have the DES, Thomas Kane, saying Richard was a good meal for the coyotes, I mean, how can someone like that in that position say something like that, right? When you know that he's dirty, and on top of that, he's dirty, and that the CID, and it's cartel-tied, right? That this is cartel-tied, and the cartel can be very, very brutal. So, we have the evidence, from Nadal Bayim to the LLCs to Leilani Hart to her affidavit that's notarized confession with other confessions from her, with other evidence from Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia and Jonathan Ambrose and those LLCs with Danae Katzen and their fugitives. They're fugitives from the law, and absolutely tied to the cartel, and David Candelera and KTSM and Natasia Paloma. That is, they're absolutely dirty. They're absolutely compromised. They're absolutely connected to Luis Rene Diaz, cartel-tied with Arturo Alba, in the and the thing is that Luis Rene Diaz was picked by Bill Hicks, a usurper, to manage the prosecuting office there in El Paso, the 34th Judicial District Attorney's Office, right? That still remains botched because James Montoya is he's just botched. He is not properly installed. He tried to tamper, well, he did tamper with the documents to try to fix the situation. And then what do you have? Voila, the 2028 stamp that absolutely declares that he is illegitimate, that he tampered, that he's criminal. He's criminal what he did. And that this is an institutional cartel-tied criminal syndicate that is facilitating the criminal trafficking in El Paso. And then you have the Kayla Cardona, assistant to Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, that confirms that Sean Bernabe obstructed and ordered the obstruction and interference with the jack to the murder of our son, right? And he's our son is a witness, and his case is so tied to the Walmart mass shooting because he's a witness. He's a witness turned whistleblower. You can be a witness, but if you don't say anything, right? But that's not what he was told all his life. When you come from a military family, you see something, you say something, right? You see something, you say something. And especially when it comes to national security, especially when it comes to generals that become traitors engaged in criminal trafficking using our military, abusing their power, and using our military to facilitate criminal trafficking for personal gain, for profit. And that's what was going on. And Richard saw it and he said something. And that's why they murdered him. That's why they killed him in the line of duty. In the line of duty, because this is like an internal war. It's a mutiny. It was absolutely a mutiny. I think a mutiny is the best way to describe this. It was a mutiny of our institution and our military that joined forces against President Trump because President Trump in 2018, 2017, 18, 19 was investigating the border. Of course, he was investigating the border. And you can't investigate the border. I mean, didn't he say, I'm going to build the wall and make Mexico pay for it? People thought that was a racist statement. I knew it wasn't a racist statement because I love economics, and I thought to myself, "Oh my gosh, what is he what is he saying? He's saying that we have a huge deficit with Mexico." That's what he's saying, a huge deficit with Mexico. And of course he's saying that because he's a businessman. He's a businessman and he went to the Wharton School of finance, right? Of finance. He was an economist, minor or major or whatever. He absolutely studied uh, economics. He studied economics. He's all about he's all about the cost of things. He's all about the tariffs. He's all about the cost of fuel. He's all about debt and deficit and profits and so when you understand that, I downloaded in 2015. I didn't know who the man was. I don't watch TV much, and I downloaded his financials. I looked at his financials that went on and on and on and on and on and on, and they were amazing. They were absolutely astonishing. Um, that such a man exists that could be that productive, that just amazing. Absolutely, what amazing man. That's what I thought to myself, and everyone, was focusing on, his whatever they didn't like about him, right? And I'm like, look at these financials. I mean, you have to work, you have to work your tail off to accomplish something like that. And you have to be pretty smart. And look at him now. Just this last week, you can see at his age, just working like crazy. Can you imagine 20 years ago, 30 years ago? I mean, what kind of force was he? It's just amazing, right? Absolutely amazing. And whether you like him or not, I think this is the thing. I'm not saying this because I'm swooning over him. I'm very happily married for over 30 years, very happily married to the biggest hero. People don't understand what a hero Richard's father is. He's a total hero in all of this, and so is Richard. I'm just the face of Richard Halliday, Justice for Richard Halliday. The real heroes, behind the scenes, the ones that do the work and put their names on the line, sign the name, not any kind of auto pen. No, actually know what they're doing and sign their name. And I mean, and people know, there's people out there that know, yes, we know Richard's daddy. We know Richard's daddy. He's absolutely a hero. So I'm not swooning over President Trump. I'm telling like it is. Like it is that this was all about a criminal syndicate, people that want to make money, billions of dollars, by uh, grand theft larceny. Grand theft larceny. Grand theft larceny. That's what they want to do. They want to use our military. They want to use our most valuable assets, our sons and daughters. They want to use our fuel, and they want to take it. They are thieves, and then they want to do it for personal gain, and they want to take children, and they want to either they grow the substances or they create it in the lab, this pink cocaine that they're talking, the pink crack that they're talking about. And I know that Belen Rocha, when I first talked to her, because I don't know anything about these things, and she was just spitting it all out. She knew. She was like a cigarette girl, right? She was a cigarette girl, but she was selling more than cigarettes, in my estimation. In my estimation. And so, of course, she's now has a criminal record and everything. And I was crying over her. I was praying over her, hoping that that wouldn't be the case. But now she is. And Danae Katzen is a fugitive from the law with her husband. That was absolutely uh, 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 totally connected with Richard's unit. Right, with Richard's unit, a West Pointer. Her husband was a West Pointer, and they tried to the media, the fake media, tries to absolutely do a hypnosis on the people. They give a false witness to Richard. They still do, because the military abused their power and used UCMJ against Richard. And then the cartel absolutely tried to use the El Paso Police Department to frame Richard. It didn't stick. None of it sticked. None of it. None of it. And yet they try to give you a false narrative to shield your eyes or hide your eyes from the heroes, from the real heroes. And Richard is the real hero that absolutely was uncompromised. Therefore, he could be a witness whistleblower. You see, that's what and this is the problem with Glennon Oakley Jr. He was also not compromised, a witness whistleblower, a witness whistleblower. And they found him unalived, um, in April of 2020, months before Richard was unalived. And so, but they want to prevent, see, the cartel don't like the cartel military, I would say, compromised agents and officials, the cartel linked officials, military agents, they're everywhere. They're everywhere. I mean, look at the Mayellas. They're in the FBI office, they're in the DA office, they're in the federal courthouse, they're at the Walmart cybersecurity, they're in mental health. I mean, it's everywhere. They're everywhere. They're in, they're I can't release that information, but I'm just going to tell you they're everywhere. They're everywhere. They're connections, and this is absolutely cartel criminal trafficking network, that is grand theft larceny with our military, with our agencies, with our institutions, and they use taxpayer funded money to run their criminal syndicate. And so, think about that the next time you look at President Trump, who worked his tail off, has been audited so many times. I'm like probably a dozen times he's been audited, maybe more than a dozen times. He's been rated everything, and he comes out sparkling clean. He's the real hero, whether you like it or not, whether I like it or not. It's just a fact. It's just a fact. And he, a lot of people understand that. And so he won the election. But in 2017, and 2018, 2019, he was auditing. His administration was investigating and auditing. The pressure was on, even though there was a mutiny. There was absolutely a mutiny inside the administration, inside our government, right? And we all know that because they went after him, and he was the main target. He was the main target, and Richard was a witness to that. He was a witness to the mutiny. Okay, he was absolutely a witness to the mutiny, and he was telling us it is so bad. It is so bad. And you have to understand, Richard. And if you read his letter from um, that he wrote from basic training, you would absolutely understand him. And watch the video of him calling the mutiny out, calling the cartel out. Um, and the letter shows a, a young man so excited. And we know what he went in for. He went in to be a CID agent. He wanted to be CID. Okay. He put in an official inquiry that was corroborated by Marlon Soto, saying that yes, and we have it. The inquiry that Richard wanted to be a CID agent and wanted to start that process. So he was the Distinguished Honor Graduate for basic training. Number one, a guidon bearer. Um, was promoted 3 times before his peers with waivers. Uh, for Sergeant J. Paulin said you'd ask him to do anything, and he would do it without complaint. He would do it without complaint. Okay, and you could tell him to dig a foxhole, and he would do it without complaint. Now that just gives you shivers because we know that Jay Paulin is absolutely dirty in all of this, absolutely compromised in all of this. Absolutely. And he knows it. Um, yeah, with others. With others. Because the Sergeant Major's Academy is there at Fort Bliss. And so you should have the best of the best NCOs. But they were shaking. They were compromised. And many, many other soldiers were compromised, and many, many were shaking. And you know what? It was a setup job. It was an absolute setup job. The cartel and high ranking cartel um, criminal trafficking compromised officers and um, yeah, were allowing young girls to come into the barracks. They were allowing the substances to come into the barracks. They were allowing the illegal weapons, unlawfully. Well, you're not allowed to have weapons in the barracks, but they were flush with weapons. Um, and they were allowing the parties during the COVID lockdown, bringing in the young girls. A 14-year-old girl lived in the barracks for 4 months, 4 months. And we have it confirmed that they were filming all of this. They were filming the parties. They were filming. Um, this was compromising our military. This was compromising our young people, and also harming them, putting their health at risk, bringing in the substances. We have Asia Graham, who was found unalived, um, and a and a laced one of those laced uh, uh, substances. I don't know how else to say this without getting banned. That ended her life. Ended her life. And she was another one that came in with such high hopes, such high aspirations, so excited, trying so hard, and and there was rapes in the and am I allowed to say that? Am I the worst type of crime against a woman in the barracks? They weren't keeping the women. Who the hell has a co-ed barracks? What kind of leaders have a co-ed barracks? They're sick. They're absolutely sick. How can you enforce discipline with a bunch of 17 to 25-year-olds full of vim and vigor, and you make it co-ed. Who the hell thinks that's going to work out good? These are absolutely cartel, personal gain, grand theft larceny leaders. All that's their agenda. And in order to get that done, they have to compromise our hopeful, aspiring sons and daughters that volunteer and have to, without any choice, no choice, live in those compromised barracks and have to, without any leadership. Let me tell you, Jay Pollan was the worst. Michael Ruggiero was even worse than that. I mean, these were demons coming out of the fissures of hell and targeting our young sons and daughters because they were not following the SOPs, the standard operating procedures in the barracks. And then whoever, I don't know who it was, made these barracks co-ed. And then when the worst kind of crime happens to Asia Graham and she reports it, what do? They put the perpetrator 2 doors down from her and make her life hell. This was all intentional because there's no other explanation for this. And because it was intentional, and because of the abuse of power with the UCMJs, not just done to Richard, but to many of our young sons and daughters. I mean, if they're going to put a perpetrator who was found guilty and is serving 18 years against Asia Graham, 2 doors down from her after she files a complaint, and they say, oh, we take this seriously. No, they don't take it seriously. They take it seriously to laugh and to do the next setup. I mean, my goodness, you had like a dozen soldiers almost lose their life from poison, from drinking a grog out of a sealet in the field during an exercise, and there was antifreeze in the sealet. Let me tell you that kind, my husband's a physician, is that kind of poisoning. A physician is that kind of poisoning, you don't recover from that easily. I bet you they have permanent damage from drinking that antifreeze. And that was under Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe. With all of this going on and him coming in to not have another Vanessa Guillen situation, with the Vanessa Guillen, everything hit the fan because they found her remains that they really, really didn't want to find. And evidence corroborates what I just said because I've talked to Texas EquiSearch and I've seen all the documents that were reported, and they absolutely did not. When they found that Pelican case near the Leon River, they knew they were very close to Vanessa Guillen's remains. And what did the CID, Donna Martin, do? Call off the CID and kick Texas EquiSearch off the case. Off the case. Instead of bringing reinforcements and doing a shoulder-to-shoulder, elbow-to-elbow search of that area with every soldier they could spare to leave no soldier behind, they did the opposite. They did the opposite. And because God wanted Vanessa Guillen found at just the right time, he sent those animals. It was the most sophisticated grave. Even though her remains were battered, bludgeoned, cut up, burnt, buried under lime, buried under concrete, buried under dirt, God sent his animals to dig around that grave. And linemen saw those animals and went, wow, what's that? What's that? And that's how they found Vanessa Guillen's remains. Not because the CID under Lieutenant General Donna Martin, the biggest traitor, treasonous, a stain on the U.S. Army forever and ever. A stain. I don't know how long it's going to take for us to recover from such a evil. Because, CID is, we depend on the CID. We depend on IG. They gave her a star. Mealy, McConville, Garrett, the Senate Arms Committee gave her a star on this stain. This is how disgusting. And she was in charge of Richard's investigation also. She needs to be held accountable with the others. And even with finding Vanessa Guillen and so this is where the deep state comes in, because how in the heck did she get a star? How in the heck did the Senate Arms Committee think it was okay to give her a star and Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe a star for their disgust, for their failure in leadership, for their betrayal, for their treasonous actions, because they were aiding and abetting a foreign and domestic enemy. The cartel have ties and strings to the CCP. You aid and abet the cartel, you're aiding and abetting, you are absolutely committing treason, because they are tied, they are strings, they have strings all over them to the CCP. If you don't believe me, go look at Nova Casa Grandes. Go ahead, go look at it down in Juarez, Mexico. Yeah. And the Mexicans are suffering because of it. And they had strings on our military. Because the criminal trafficking that was paid for by the American taxpayers. Who paid for those hundreds of thousands of children being trafficked? It was American taxpayers. But who pocketed the profit from this evil scheme? And the trafficking is to compromise, right? It's to make money, compromise, but the real money is in the contracts. The real money is the contracts for the beds, for the blankets, for all the stuff that pertains to this emergency intake center. That was General Kelly. He did that in Florida, his company. The big contracts, yes. Ask Bradford Bugado if he knows anything about contracts. Ask Sean Bernabe if he knows anything about contracts on Fort Bliss and everything. And no bid contracts or con job, con job bids for contracts because it's just the evidence confirms. The evidence confirms. And what was the media doing? What's the media doing? Giving us fake news. Our country is, um, the righteousness of our country, um, just eaten away. We're just becoming a stain. It's like a cancer, right? It's like a cancer. They compromise, compromise, compromise. You want to say something, you want to do something better. They say, hey, we have a video of you. Remember that 14-year-old girl? We have a video. Remember those illegal substances? We have a video. But I was just 19 and was in the barracks and this and this and they oh yeah. And I haven't said this in a long time because the initiations where they would even strip you, tie your tie you to a chair, tie your hands, pour alcohol down your throat, um, stick a little piece of paper with LSD on it or whatever in your mouth. I mean, these were all reports we were getting when we got there to El Paso. The compromising of our soldiers, and it's intentional, and they're young. And if you want to run, then they say, "Oh, you're an 86, right? You're an AWOL." And then they use the media to smear you. They smeared Glendon Oakley Jr. He was a total hero, and they bullied him. They absolutely sent their attack dogs out uh, uh, through the computer, through ordered him to take down evidence from his personal Facebook or Instagram site, Twitter site. Ordered him. That's so illegal. That's so illegal. And Bob Moore of El Paso Matters helps to perpetuate false news, fake media. El Paso Matters, Bob Moore knew July 29th, 2020, that the Mayellas were part of Patrick Crusius's family. In the DA, in the FBI, in the federal courthouse, in Walmart cybersecurity, in mental health, and concealed that to the public, concealed it from the public. The very courthouse where Patrick Crusius was undergoing his case was being managed by his father-in-law? Is it like a father-in-law? I mean, his brother's married to Alexis Crusius, and Patrick Crusius is, so childlike, and you can see it. I was just given this video of some other guy. Anyway, yeah, it's I shouldn't even have said that, but um Bob Moore did that. Everything that comes from Bob Moore's pen or whatever he types um, has a political agenda, which is a violation of his 501c3. So President Trump was absolutely just like Yvonne Rosales, she was a target too. They targeted her because they wanted to control the DA's office. And she was investigating El Paso Community Foundation, who was controlling the Walmart mass shooting victims funds, which was over $12 million. And we know, we have confirmed, we have the evidence that confirms that there was fraud in the distribution of those victim funds. And Yvonne Rosales was investigating that. And that's why she was a target. That's why she was a target. That was the main reason why she was a target. She was looking into Richard's case too, and she was absolutely wanting to set, just think about a trial date for the Walmart mass shooting case. And, but no, but the real thing, the real problem was these victims' funds because they were committing grand theft larceny. They did it with the application for appointed counsel, charging taxpayers millions of dollars for the defense of Patrick Crusius. Not even a defense, right? Because don't tell me that um, Joe Open Checkbook Spencer doesn't know the Mayellas. Okay. We know that James Montoya does because he was working with Michael G. Mayella at the time of the Walmart. Because he was working in the DA's office with James Montoya and Jaime Esparza. So, absolutely, this was grand theft larceny. They were preserving the cartel criminal trafficking syndicate by targeting President Trump with the narrative, with they had to have the media to do it because the evidence, I mean, you have the video of about 11 a.m. It had been about 11 a.m. for that video with Alexander Gerhard Hofmann laying there in his blood. That's a German national. That's a German. You have a video of the German national. Where was that video? That should have been out everywhere. And America should have had its tail between its legs apologizing to Germany. Because there's been fraud. Why? Because I read the German newspapers and they call Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia the Witwe. She's not the Witwe. They call her the widow. No, she's not the widow. She wasn't married to him. She was impersonating a widow for personal gain. This is, and here we are, the Gold Star family, and we have to present this being shadow banned, da 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 da. Where is the news? Where are they? Where's Bob Moore? He knows Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia. He knows Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia before Richard was even lost his life. And she's family with Danae Katzen and Jonathan Ambrose, connected with many, many more. It was not an accident that Danae Katzen was sent to us 2 days after we got to El Paso to target us. They had already targeted Richard. They were already in possession after Richard had lost his life of his credit cards and financial information. and they had access. Jonathan Ambrose is, you know, trained in cyber uh, AI and everything before we even knew about the AI. You can find his little questions and discussions on how to get the best information out of that. And that was, I'm just saying, he's a tech. He's a cyber tech, and he knows law. He went to the Sandra Day O'Connor High School, which is law enforcement high school, um, and part of 143 ADA, was deployed with them. So there, the whole Rosa Maria Valdez Garcia, her impersonating, her conning, her tampering with official documents, her relation with the Katzens and the Embrees and Gonzaleses, and I can name the names that are a part of all of this. Of course, the Rochas. Um, it's it's all very it's we understand what happened now. And I can say Trump was investigating. They joined forces to protect their financial criminal interests, be it the criminal trafficking, be it the Walmart gift card scandal, be it the contracts, be it the grand theft larceny, like the lawyers with the application for appointed counsel, not nickel and dime it, but let's just have an open checkbook to taxpayer funds. Um, they absolutely, all the way to um, well, I talked to McConville, I talked to General Garrett. They're absolutely dirty. They're a stain. And Christine Warmoth, the Secretary of the Army, and you think, how can this be? Well, people call it a deep state. That criminal trafficking is billions of dollars, and then on top of that, the contracts, billions of dollars. We have a $1 trillion military. And what are we getting for it? We have a government that's absolutely out of control, $37 trillion in debt. What do we have for it? We should have gold roads. We should have unirails. We should have the most beautiful buildings. We should have, uh, you know, just incredible planes and incredible vehicles and everything. And President Trump knows that because he's a builder, he's a developer. He understands old buildings. He had the old post office there in Washington D.C., and it was just magnificent building. He understands the buildings, the ancient buildings. He understands what it costs to build something. And I don't, but I do understand what it costs to build something little because we built our house in Ireland. It was just an old cottage, and we did it. We did it. We took control of that project, and it took years. And we absolutely, when when we saw that he had that golf course in Ireland and in Scotland, you think Ireland's bad to build something? Scotland is, wow, regulations and everywhere. The regulations of getting solid workers to come and give you a decent bid. Everybody wants to take you for everything. Um, Yeah, he was absolutely the target. And we have, um, so much work to do to clean up this mess. So much work to do. And that's why we're so patient because we're not just patients sitting behind waiting for the FBI, waiting for DEA, waiting for DHS, waiting for ATF, waiting for the 15 plus agencies that were at the meeting, right? Waiting for the president, waiting for the Department of Justice. We're not just waiting for them, we're absolutely engaged with them. Engaged. And they absolutely um, know who we are. And the more support, and this is really where every day I come on, the more support that we get, the more truth that gets out there. Because are we going to ask Jake Tapper to give us the truth? I mean, are we going to ask 60 Minutes to give us the truth? Are we going to ask CNN or Fox News or El Paso Matters or El Paso Times or to give us the truth? Um, you know, so we have to absolutely be engaged in this because our lives are at stake. Our national security is at stake. Our future is at stake because they are engaged in criminal trafficking along with grand theft larceny. That is just, and we're making huge with fake news. With the fake news. And we're just doing amazing things because of all the support that we're getting. And you saw that with the election. You had Veronica Escobar holding the purse for Kamala Harris, $1.2 billion, and they lost. They lost, and they lost because the American people didn't want them. They saw who they were. They saw who they were, and they took their chance with President Trump. There's too many victims now. Too many victims from all the crime and too much debt from all the grand theft larceny. And the larceny is right there in the Senate and the Congress, um, in our military, in that Pentagon. Yeah. So, you know, I think that's the first job is to get um, a solid minority understanding the situation that we're in and undoing the hypnosis of the division that the media has done to us and the compromising, because sometimes they hypnotize us so much that we do things that we don't want to do, because we're like trained to try to react a certain way, and we have to undo that mind. What is it? The mind control that they've placed on us. So once we get the truth out and understand what's going on, understand that we're Americans, that we're really not so divided after all. Once we get that minority, the minority that stands on their faith, and that has a lot to do with this. And for years and years, they've worked very, very hard to take away the faith that brings people together. And, that's a whole nother battle. But it really does play a huge part when you're in this situation. Because without our faith, we could have never gotten this far. So we want to thank everybody so much. And just know that we are working very, very hard behind the scenes. And we ask, to help us with the sharing, with just talking to people about what's going on. And that Richard was a hero just because he was a witness and a whistleblower. And they were so mad at him. Y'all, when we went there, we were shocked. We're like, why are they treating us like this? They're so mad at Richard. Why are they so mad at Richard? And they're crying and they're shaking and they're so mad at him. And they're having a real hard time being nice to us. Matter of fact, they weren't very nice to us, right? They didn't even call us. They kicked us out. They weren't very nice to us. And we're like, what's going on? This is not the military that we know. And it's because Richard exposed them. Richard exposed them to the Trump administration, who was then doing the audits and the investigations. And it was very connected to the Walmart mass shooting because that was a diversion. That was a diversion from it, a very bloody one. So thank you so much. Where's Interpol? Why didn't they follow through with arrests for fake photos? Yeah, and that's a big part of this case, Danielle, was the um, tampered photo where they used Dallas Hart's photo, superimposed Dallas Hart's photo, um, and gave that to Interpol. This is, you know, it really is a book of, you know, the revelation of the deep state because nothing else can explain it unless it's that they're all kind of working together and um but that would be so kind of like dark, wouldn't it? That would be so negative. And I assure you it's not that simple. There are there are unbelievable people, um like I said, we're engaged with it trying to sort this out with the least amount of damage. It's that serious. Yeah. And you saw what President Trump truthed out. I think it's Truth Social. The video of Hillary Clinton and, the trail of bodies. Seth Rich. No one knows what happened to Seth Rich. He just tweeted that out. He is absolutely knows what's going on. And he's a really big fan of General MacArthur. And when he said that, you'd think, oh, he's a fan of General Patton. But no, he said he was a fan of General MacArthur. And you see, because I have a huge connection to South Korea, a huge connection to the military, I understand who MacArthur is. There's a huge statue of MacArthur there in Incheon. They love him. They love him in South Korea. Why? Because he was so careful. He was so clever, but he considered every life under him and who he was fighting. He's he's the general known for the least amount of casualties on both sides, with the enemies and with his own service members. He could win a battle with the least amount of casualties, period. And they love him there. Love him for that. So, and I think since Trump likes him so much, I think that's what is going on right now. It's a consideration because he understands that, this is the whole criminal trafficking on the border is a pretty dirty family business. Some of these people, they were just born into it. It's a pretty bad family business. And I think he's trying to figure it out. I'm sure he's had years to do it. Um, so we'll see what happens. And we're not just waiting. Like I said, we're moving forward and we're bringing out new evidence as we get it every day to you, and re-looking at all of our evidence and reassessing it with all the new information that we have, because of Richard had some numbers of certain people, and those people, we didn't know who they were. Now we understand who they were. Just really re-looking at everything. And because there's a lot at stake and we want accountability for what happened, because that accountability will be, even for like Lavina Johnson, that's like over 20 years old, right? Lavina Johnson. Um, so the accountability is far reaching in all of this. And you have Gloria um, Guillen. She absolutely doesn't feel like there has been justice done in her daughter's case yet. So that's what I'm saying. This accountability is far reaching, and we're, very engaged behind the scenes. And, please join us, because the more people that share, that's, we're a government by the people, for the people, of the people, and that's what moves them. And so it's the sharing, it's the talking about it, it's sending letters to the Congress and the Senate, um, to your governor, that moves them. So you have a lot of power. We have a lot of power in the United States. I'm very grateful for that. So let's assume that power, and know that we can make a difference. Thank you so much, everybody. Yeah, and just to say, Danielle, that Interpol, we haven't forgotten about that picture. Okay, so thank you so much. God bless you, and I will be back